the natural course of life ultimately ends in death. In different cultures around the world, there are different ways to prepare the dead for their journey and to honor them in the afterlife. Funeral directors dedicate themselves to assisting the family of deceased in terms of funeral arrangement and conduction. In Taiwan, however, where traditions and rituals are highly valued among its citizens, funeral directors are especially important due to the taboos and complicated process of honoring the gods and ancestors during one's journey in the afterlife. Funeral directing is a role of caring, assisting, communicating, and doubt clearing. Funeral directors help make known to neighbors of a family's grieving through pasting 言志, which signifies the loss of one's father, or 辞志, which signifies the loss of one's mother, on the family's door. They will also assist in the printing of obituary notice to inform the family's friends and relatives.
Aside from this, funeral directors will also help families contact a monk or a priest needed for the funeral process, and will arrange the families for a visit to places where they can choose to bury the deceased after the ceremony. They will also reach out to morticians responsible for embalming and cosmetically enhancing the deceased before the funeral reception. Lastly, funeral directors will assist the family in completing the funeral ceremony and also accompany them to the crematorium for the cremation of the body, bone picking, and finally assist them in the burial process of the dead. Mr. Zhang Weizhen is 48 years old and has been working in the funeral service industry for almost 20 years. His family operates a funeral home called Guangrui Shenming Li Yishe, which is located in Yuli Township of Hualien County. The funeral home has been passed down for 5 generations already, and Mr. Zhang, along with his brothers, intend to keep the family business running.
When we interviewed Mr. Zhen about his role in the funeral directing field, he explained that he is mostly responsible for contacting morticians who specialize in embalming and/or cosmetically enhancing the deceased body. Since the funeral industry encompasses a variety of professions, effective communication and cooperation is required in order to provide the best and most memorable service to each family. Mr. Zhen's family mainly provides funeral service to people in Yuli and Fuli townships. Since Hualien County also has a distinct Hakka community, the funeral home also performs Taoist and Buddhist funeral ceremonies that are specific to Hakka culture. Hakka funerals can therefore be more complicated and require a lot more attention to details, such as deciding on the date and time of certain rituals, and whether they will negatively affect people of certain Chinese zodiacs. Despite the differences in funeral rites among various cultures and religions, Mr. Zhen maintained that the most important aspect of the industry is to ensure that the family's wishes are met.
When asked about an unforgettable and peculiar experience working in the industry, Mr. Sung mentioned that he used to bring his son to work around 10 years ago. Since the son was only 2 years old at the time, he had only just learned how to speak. However, as Mr. Sung was working, his son suddenly told him that he saw a grandma asking for a burial instead of a cremation. When Mr. Sung relayed this message to the family, they were all startled because the deceased had in fact asked for a burial before she passed away. Life and even the afterlife certainly work in wondrous ways. When asked about his opinions on life and death, Mr. Sung said that life is too short to hold grudges and make a fuss over insignificant things, because they will no longer matter in the afterlife. What is most important is to make decisions that live up to your own conscience and expectations. Funeral directing is certainly a profession worthy of respect and admiration. Although Mr. Sung's story is only one of the many who work in this industry, his impact on the lives he touched through his dedication to provide the best service is immeasurable.